It's a Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Fodringer, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, the Dauphin, he can hit them, and he does. The Dauphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello everybody, welcome again to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and we have a positive result to talk about this time. We beat Morecambe, the big one, the big game we were all looking forward to, the one that mattered the most. We'll talk about that win, the rubbish cup draw, which was overshadowed by Martin O'Neill, and we'll look ahead to Saturday as Blackburn Rovers come to New York Stadium. First of all, Mick, how are you doing?
All good, mate. Thank you. You?
You're very good. How's that car park in North Wales looking?
Just as beautiful as ever, mate.
It's wonderful to hear. And Joy from London Millers is with us. How are you doing, Joy?
I'm fine. I know why you've got me on today. It's because you needed some joy, didn't you, to the podcast? Because it's about the only joy we seem to be getting at the moment.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And Danny's with us. On time, Danny. How are you doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Your Wi-Fi is holding up so far. Well, less than a minute, obviously. It's a good start. It's a very, very good
threatened
start.
it, that's why.
Neil Lewis is with us. So is John S. Martin Holland. Chris Page is watching the Hibs game on mute while listening to us. Thank you very much. Kim Hayward's with us. And Johnny Davis says, evening, New York talkers, and evening to his dad if he's watching. Hello, Johnny's dad. Showstone says he was hilarious. So, let's talk about Morecambe first. Danny, a win's a win, is a win, is a win. That's it, really. It's difficult to take anything else from that game, really, I thought.
It was just a bit by the skin of your teeth, really, wasn't it? For me, anyway, it just wasn't very good. It was just quite a meh game of football. I think everybody felt like that. I think maybe even the players felt like that a bit as well. Certainly the opening 25 minutes or so, we were below standard against Morecambe. And it were only really as the game got past 60 minutes or so that we really looked the better team. But even then, it just felt like such a nothing game that it turned out. Maybe in hindsight, it would have been better if we did lose it due to who we got drawn against. But yeah, it's just like, it's a bit of a boost because we did get it over the line, Technically, it's the first win of the season, even though we drew in 90 minutes. And I think it just created more headaches than solutions, really. So it's just, that's just how it felt to me. It's just,
Yeah, these first round cup games, Joy, are sometimes often like pre-season friendlies. You can't often say if we had more players, we would have rotated. But it's this game you can't really take anything from it anyway. Really, I don't think. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, I suppose in one sense, at least we won, even if it was on penalties. Because last year we didn't win, did we? So
exactly.
Go figure. So I suppose it's a positive, but I agree with you, Danny. Meh is about it, isn't it? And Wiles comes away with a dead leg as well, which means there's a query against him for Saturday. That's not positive, is it? Having said that, he's not exactly been pulling any trees up, bless him, has he? So a win's a win. And let's be positive. There were two reasonable saves that the keeper made, weren't there? Phillips made, and I think we might have unearthed another goalkeeping gem there.
Possibly. So Victor made a name for himself in the Papa John's, didn't he? Saving all them penalties. Dylan Phillips made a name for himself. Mick finally beat Morecambe, I suppose. Third time lucky in the League Cup. A 5-4 loss, a 1-0 loss, I think. And then a 1-1 win on penalties, I suppose it is. And just your general thoughts on how important it is.
Well, listen, are you depressing the life out of me, you lot? It's a great win. We're through to the next round at Cup. Come on. Have a bit of positivity. Listen, I obviously, as you're aware, I didn't go to the game, so because I'm away. So, but it's some more minutes into legs. Yeah, I accept by the sounds of it. So first half an hour or so, we weren't really much cop, but by the end of the game, we're starting to get into the swing of it. By the sounds of it, my understanding is that Jamie McCart was a standout in terms of his performance, which is good news, because that adds us a little bit more strength in that back line, assuming that he doesn't get sent out on loan. JJ managed to get his name on the score sheet, which, albeit from what you told me is a tap in, it nevertheless a goal's a goal, isn't it? And it's some minutes in his legs as well. And some positive words from Matt Taylor about JJ afterwards as well, in that he sees as a player in there and somebody that he feels he can work with. So there's a potential that he may not be going out on loan. He may well stay with us. He's a big, strong lad, without a doubt, and he's got some pace. So, if he can bring the player out in him, he's a good player to have in the squad. So like you said, these games are like a pre-season friendly, aren't they? They always are every year. This first round, and this time we appear to have got through, which I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, quite frankly. I think from a confidence point of view, it's a good thing, but it's another game to have to play, in it. And unfortunately, like a lot of teams, we're not one that's blessed with a coach load full of juniors that we can play in it, are we? So.
No. Well, the juniors came on. Talajibil is not a junior, but Mungukin came on and actually quite well. He should have scored on Mungukin. It was a very, very good chance, but he put himself in a good position, to be fair. Just touch on Jamie McCart, Danny. He's not looking since he came in last summer, to be fair. He went out alone and played a few times for Leyton Orient. But every time we have seen him for Rotherham, he's done okay. I think Huddersfield away last season, I think he was poor. But other than that, he's done all right. And he was the only one that stood out. Dylan Phillips, obviously. But in terms of the 90 minutes, Jamie McCart was the only one that stood out, and I thought had a good game.
Yeah, I think he had a good day, a good game defensively, to be fair. Could it be the opposition that he was up against and, sort of knew that a bit more? I'm not too sure. But, yeah, I suppose with Jamie McCart, we've not really seen enough of him to properly comment. And the times we have seen him last season, it were only like a quick cameo or, like a forced start, really. Because I think Huddersfield was a forced start because of the injuries and stuff. He's done okay when he's come on. But I think it's more about getting it out of him consistently. Yeah. That may be why it goes out on loan somewhere again, or if the defensive fitness continues to be a thing, maybe he's kept as a backup option. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, very steady and no absolute howlers from McCart against Morecambe. So yeah, he's had a good game. Same with McGuckin, to be fair, like you just said, he should have scored. Maybe if he'd had a bit more senior time, if you like, it would have buried it. But he's come on, and again, another person that I think has caught Taylor's eye, and maybe one for the future, like JJ as well.
Yeah, I think so. Nicholas Skidmaster McCart spray some passes around like he's known to. He did do the crossfield ping once or twice, which we were told about last summer. Yes, he did. Phil Ox said McCart would be in front of Morrison for him, and Matt Squires said McCart had a decent game, a bit of a step up in the league, though. Yeah, it is, absolutely, and that's the question, whether he can. Moving on to the second round, Joy. Quite possibly the worst draw we could have possibly got. I looked through the draw and I couldn't quite pick one that was worse. The team that's just beat us 4-1, we have to go and do it again. Any positives out of that draw?
No, it's a Tuesday night in Stoke, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
What can one say after being, what we went through? All we can say is maybe when we do meet them is we can get a little bit more of a gauge as to how we've improved since the first match of the season.
True.
Or not, as the case may be. So, we can use it that. It depends who they decide to put out again, whether they're going to put out their speedy number 7 again. But but it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, Donny get Everton and we get Stoke away on a Tuesday night. So it is what it is, isn't it? But like I said, we could, like I say, use it as a gauge to, maybe if we only come away with a 1-0 loss or even a draw or take them to penalties, then it's an improvement on the start of the season and means we're going in the right direction. I suppose we could use it as a guide to that going forward. That's the only thing I can think of. I can't imagine there'll be many schlepping down to Stoke, can you?
No, I can't think so, no. To be fair to Stoke, I don't think they'll be taking many to their own home game. To be fair, Mick, if you look at the teams that were in it, because it's split northern and southern, there were Everton, Forest, and that was about it, I think. Wolves were in there as well as a Premier League team. There were no standout team anyway. We played Everton every other year, it feels like, Mick. So it's just either get through and hopefully get a big boy in the third round, or just see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, United were in there as well. Sheffield United, weren't they?
True.
But, it's irrelevant, really. It's an irrelevant competition for it as far as we're concerned, isn't it? It is, and it's a shame, but we've got bigger fish to fry. So it's just about getting some minutes in it into players' legs and try and get an understanding of what the managers are expecting of them. So I'm not convinced they got that at Stoke.
No, they didn't. The game will be played on I think it's the week 28th. Week start on the 28th. So the should be the Tuesday after the bank holiday, I would expect. So before the transfer window closes. So we probably still won't have done all our business by then. Or we might have done. Or we might have done it all. It'd be a good game to play, to sort of get the new boys playing, get some good minutes under the belts. Side point here, Danny. Daniel Liverser says, "Hi, can't believe the penalties were at the other end of the pitch where nobody was. They should have been at the end where the crowd was." I know you get a slight benefit from taking in front of your own crowd, but it does seem ridiculous that you've got 2,500 people there and you put the penalties as far away as possible from every single person in the stadium. It was just completely stupid.
Well, it depends on who won the toss, doesn't it? Like, if Morecambe have won the toss, then I suppose it was their choice not to kick towards the Rotherham fans, even if it meant an empty stand. But yeah, it did seem very, very odd that it's in the stand that's completely empty. But like I say, if Morecambe have won the toss, which they might have done, it makes a bit more sense. Because I think if we'd won the toss, we'd want the crowd benefit to be on our side. Yeah, it was a bit strange, to be fair. Not very fun when you sat in the front row and you have to look through your own net and the line of stewards as well to see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I just about saw the saves that Dylan Phillips pulled off, and some of them were absolute stunners, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And the penalties from us were really good. They were somewhere.
Tyler Blackett's, by the way.
Yeah, because Tyler Blackett's an absolute thunder into that top corner. But then that's the range we've got in penalties now, by the looks of things. We're going from Tyler Blackett, who just thumps it, and then you've got Fred, who just delicately placed it. Gave the keeper the eyes and sent him the wrong way.
Yeah, pretty solid penalty shootout. Not that you can take much from it. Anything else you want to talk about from that game before we move on to Blackburn? There's not much to take from it in the first place. We're quite good. We've got 10 minutes out of it. Mick, anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, then you've got Jordan Hugel who put it about 2 foot to the wrong side at keeper. Had the keeper gone right way, he'd have just saved it. It was a shocker of a pen.
You said that, but he's given the eyes a bit, hasn't he? There's a method to it.
But, Blackett's penalty weren't being saved by anybody, would it?
No. No, but it was like half an inch away from smashing off crossbar, wasn't it? So
fair enough. All right, I'll shut up.
Yeah. John Hensby says, doesn't the referee decide end prior to the kickoff? The toss was just Rovers. No, they definitely tossed the sides because he flipped it up and pointed after the flip. So I would have made sense to have decided pre-game, but they didn't. Right, let's move forward. Blackburn Rovers come to town. The first time we've played them since the 4-0 victory last year, which was obviously massive. Joy, how important is the performance on Saturday? Because Saturday last week in Stoke was dreadful. Is the we all want 3 points, but the performance for me sort of feels like it's really. But if we play really well and it's 2-2, 1-1, then it's a step forward. It feels like probably a step forward for me.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I mean, you've just got to get the performance in. I mean, they were like a group of strangers, weren't they, at Stoke? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And we need to sort of see that they've worked on that this week in training, and that any sort of constructive criticism has been taken on board. I'd be interesting to see if we stay the same formation. Whether he's going to stay with this sort of 3-5-2 arrangement or 3-5-1-1 arrangement, or whether he'll go back to a back four. I don't know. I know we're going to do the 4-5-1 at home. I don't know. He seems to be wanting to try to have 2 strikers, or a striker and someone behind him. So he's endeavouring to do that. It doesn't seem to be a set, but one player on his own up front, which we don't want at home, if we're honest. And it'll be interesting to see what personnel are available to him as well, because there's, will Wiles be fit? Will Green be fit? Who else is Peltier's out, obviously, isn't he? Yeah, who going to have on the bench? Are we going to get a full load of subs as well? It seems that Tom Eaves might get a place on the bench, because I've seen his name up in lights that he's back on the grass. So not might necessarily get back on the pitch, but he's back on there. So he might actually get 9 subs today, Saturday. But again, you see Blackburn are another team that sort of got by through the skin of their teeth on Saturday, and sort of reading between the lines that, they did really rather well last season, just missing out on the playoffs, and their expectations are quite high. But they have lost quite a number of key players, and those that they had on loans. So I've not had any. The sort of feedback is that they're hoping that it's not going to be the same result as it was earlier this year. But who knows? I mean, we just need the performance. We just need the guys to know that they're not 11 individuals on that pitch. That they are a team, and they can actually find one another with a pass for a start. That'd help.
Yeah, it would. Formation is a key area, Mick, because obviously we've been 3-5-2. We went 3-5-2 on Tuesday, and again, certainly for the first, similar to Stoke, to be honest, with the first half an hour or so, it didn't work. We eventually settled into a rhythm, and it was Morecambe, so you would have expected us to eventually take control of the game anyway. How are you feeling about 3-5-2/4-5-1, 4-4-2, whatever, Mick? Because against Stoke, 4 at the back was significantly better, wasn't it?
It was better. It was definitely better. But then I think by that point, we were down to 10 men, weren't we? So, that was an enforced change rather than anything else. It seems clear, and I don't know. Well, I say it seems clear. We've only played one game, haven't we? But I would suggest he's going to try and play differently away from home than he is at home. And I suspect that we're more likely to go 2 up top at home, or 3 even. Rather than away. So it's going to be interesting to see. It depends obviously on the personnel that are available to him. Obviously Ben Wiles is a doubt, so somebody's going to have to come in, which might force his hand to play Georgie Kelly perhaps, or even JJ alongside Jordan Hugill. I think possibly more likely Kelly. But like Joy said, it's the performance that's important here. And we need to see some confidence in this team. They're more than capable of cutting it and of mixing it with these teams. Without a doubt, we didn't mix anything at all last weekend. We were just like scared kids. So, I can't see how at this stage of the season confidence is an issue. I just can't. But it's the performance we need. So formation, it's anybody's guess, isn't it? We're too early in the season to start making a judgment on. I think the key is that we go out and attack rather than just try and stoke up any pressure, because that's just a recipe for defeat, isn't it? Yeah. Attack. Come on.
We did. Go on, sorry.
That's my team talk done.
Yeah, they can play it. Matt Taylor can play that, can't it? 2:30.
Yeah,
Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have done a scouting report. That will be up tomorrow, so Friday, when you listen to this, Friday morning. If you want to go and listen to Dan from Rovers chat, who goes a good bit talks about last season's 4-0, obviously, and talk about their summer, because they've had a turbulent summer with the manager staying eventually, but there's ups and downs. They had a good win at the weekend. But that's up tomorrow, 10-minute jobby. So if you fancy watching that, do so on Friday. Danny, let's keep on the formation thing, because it's interesting, because if I go back to the Richard Wood thing. If you're playing 4-4 back or 4 at the back, does Sean Morrison get into your 4 at the back? Because if you isolate him like people used to isolate Richard Wood, you are in serious trouble. But if you can Tyler Blackett and Cam Humphreys, that'd be like a bit of physicality, but in every other sense, that's a perfect 2 in a 4. What do you think?
I mean, I suppose having the different kind of defenders that we have, it does allow us to be flexible at the back. But then there's the argument of you want to be more consistent with your back line and not chop it up as much and keep changing the formation there. But I think my main bit is the midfield, to be fair. We seem to have a lot of midfielders, but never go through the midfields in like just getting the ball to advance up the pitch. It always seems to be pushed wide or pushed over the top. And then again, like we say it's a 3-5-2, but really it's like a 3-5-1-1 at the minute. Because there's no second striker. It's just sort of Wilesy in an advanced position. And again, if Matt Taylor wants a lot of strikers in his team, which he's come out to the advertiser and said that he wants another attacker as a minimum, it's like, play more than one of them on the pitch, please. I mean, it's not really a knock. It's just a bit of a, it's like we were getting a lot of the players to have a bigger squad for the amount of minutes that we're going to be playing, and because they're allowed more players in the match day squad, but also to have flexibility. But then we don't play with flexibility at the same time, which it feels a little bit odd. And sort of is a bit more on the other side of the coin of Matt Taylor saying we want to play attractive football and entertaining football, but also play it well, if that makes sense. Whereas at the minute it does sometimes feel jarring, but there are flashes, and I've seen it. It was against Stoke when I watched it back, basically crying because of how poor the referee was and how poor we were. And even against Morecambe, there are flashes of what we want to achieve. And granted, you have to really watch the game and really look through the frustration of some of the passes of play that we have. But you just see that little sparks of, that were good. That were a really nice bit of football. Like with McCart and his balls, they just pings across wide, like ball pinged out wide to Fred or Dexter, and then the control, and then the ball into the box. The balls into the box are really good. It's just there's no one there to attack it, and it's in the areas where there's space, but there's no one occupying the space. So it's like it's so close, and you can see exactly what we want to try and do, and we're just not quite there yet. Whether that's because we don't have the bodies that we want to do it yet, or it's still grasping that system, or it's the injuries that have done us in a little bit because we've got a lot of players out injured. Like I think it's 8 senior players, Matt Taylor last said, and then like 2 are on the way back.
2 are on the way, well, 3 if you count Cafu.
Yeah, that's true. But still, to have 8 senior players out after 2 games of football, that's a bit.
Who's out though? Because I heard him say 8, and I couldn't work it out.
Is it? Well, Cafu was suspended, which he now isn't. Lindsay is out. Wilesy potentially with his dead leg. Hall potentially with his is it calf or something?
Hamstring.
Yeah, hamstring. It's Eves with his calf. That's what it was.
Yes,
but he might be back. Ferguson's still out with his hernia thing, and he's now seeing a specialist about that. Peltier's out for the foreseeable future now with a groin issue. And who was the other one?
I'm not going. I couldn't.
Anyway, that's 7. Anyway, it might be Lindsay.
3 of those probably back. No, 4 because Tommy might be back.
Lindsay's Achilles, yeah.
He's having an injection, isn't he?
Yeah. So that's a lot of players to have out this early in the season, but you could, just to turn the dial onto positive a little bit, get the injuries out the way early, get the poor performances out the way early, and then just keep cracking on, build in January, etc. Build the rest of this window potentially as well. But yeah, like I've just said, the flashes are there. It's like there's a spark, and then you can see exactly what they're doing in training and where we want to play our football. But it's just getting that spark to really like get the engine going, really. And we're just not quite there yet. And because we're not there yet, that's the frustrating bit. But patience, hopefully.
John Morell says, playing devil advocate here, but do you have the quality to go attacking? Wouldn't it have been better? A pragmatic approach be better? Terry Fimby and John Hens, we both say about the high press. High press is fundamental to success. It is, but the problem is Stoke press the hell out of us. You can't press that. You can't press somebody who pressures you like that. And
press, can you?
You can't press a press. And from what I've spoken to, which you'll see on the scouting report, Blackburn played a similar way last week, where they pressed Brom, and I think the first or second goal came from a press. So that then causes a problem, Joy, because I agree, when we press, that's how we play well. But how do you get around that if teams with better players then press us? How do you work? It's really difficult jigsaw Matt Taylor's got to try and fix there.
Well, this is it. And this is why we're probably getting labelled long ball, isn't it? And this is why probably our midfield is not getting as much involvement as we would like it to do, because we haven't got the quality, because we're who we are. And therefore, we have to look at what differences we have within our team. And that's it, isn't it? I mean, we're not going to be, if somebody's pressing you, the release ball is that long ball, isn't it? Or the ball across field or down the wings to run into space. And if you've got the quality of players, that's easy around it. I mean, let's be brutally honest. We've not been, and when we have tried it, we're not a passing out a defence team. Because when we have tried that previously, we usually end up conceding, or at least conceding possession. So we don't have the calibre of player to do that, it would seem, at present. I mean, obviously, Cafu's got the skill and the quality to do that, but he's one guy, and the rest of them have yet to hit the straps, I would suggest. So, hopefully, we can get that core improvement in performance, as we've touched on already. But you can't press a press. And we've always been our pride has been on the fact that we're an incredibly fit side. Are we? Or has everybody else caught us up now? And when you look at like teams like Man City, for example, that's all they do, isn't it? Press. And so everybody's doing the same thing, and you've got to have the caliber of player and those with the engines to be able to do it. Have we got that? I mean, Rathbun can, the Duracell bunny can go forever, but we haven't got 11 Rathbuns, have we? Do you know what I mean? So
no.
I don't know. I mean, that's what Matt Taylor's been paid for, isn't it? To look at, what options we do have and to pay to our strengths. But I think, obviously, as fans at the moment, we can't see what our strengths are, can we? We've not seen our team enough to work that out as of yet.
No, exactly. Realistically, just one game, Morecambe games against one. Realistically, we have one game to base it on, which is why we're also, as John Hendry says, we're all depressed. Yes, that's why. Mick, talk about attack. We talked about defence a minute ago. Talk about attack. We'd all like to see two up top. We would all love to see that. How realistic do you think that is at home? Because last week, obviously, I think we tried to play Wilesy as a bit further forward. We never got close to Hugill. He may not be fit. So what do you think is more likely to come in terms of a front two or attacking area this week?
Difficult to say. It depends on fitness. It really does. I can't see Eves being in there. Georgie Kelly is the obvious one. But again, the lad we just signed, ex-Villa lad whose name now escapes me. I'm desperately trying to remember his name. Green, yeah. He's kind of bordering on fitness as well, isn't he? So it sounded like just a bit of a niggle, the injury, rather than a kind of an out-and-out injury. So it may well be that we see him for the first time in a league game. In which case, we should be all right up there. It's so difficult this stage of the season. Like Joy's just said there, we've had one game, and it was a proper dog's dinner of a game as well. So you can't really. It's so hard. It's so difficult to come up with anything really that's going to instill any confidence in us as supporters.
Yeah,
which is not great, is it?
No, it's not. No.
Yeah. Had we had a decent game at Stoke and come away with a draw or even a single goal defeat, but the performance had been all right, then I think it would have been a little bit easier. But given the performance of in that game for pretty much the 90 minutes, it makes any sort of predictions for what's going to happen in the next few almost pointless. Because we just don't know, do we?
No.
But yeah, listen. I'd like to see two up front. I definitely would like to see two up front on at least two up front. The 4-3-3 that we employed for a good part of last season, for me, seemed to be quite effective. And whether that's something that he'll look to do at home may well come to fruition. But we're talking about in possession here, aren't we? And then out of possession, it's a different formation again.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as cut and dried as right. We're going to play 4-3-3 or whatever, and that's that. We'll have to wait and see. But just going back to what John mentioned earlier on about not having the players to attack and maybe more pragmatic approaches is preferable. For me, I'm not buying that one. Just on the basis that you could argue that the pragmatic approach was what we tried at Stoke, and that just did not work. You can't. I don't think in this league that you can approach a game in that manner. You've got to approach the game in a positive fashion and look to win the game, not sucking up pressure, because teams will hurt you. But if you do attack teams, the quality in virtually any of the sides in this division is not there to maintain for 90 minutes. You put them under pressure and they will crack. Most of them, maybe not necessarily the likes of Leicester and Southampton and possibly Leeds who've come down from the Premier League, but the remainder, with the greatest respect, don't have the quality 1 to 11 to sustain that for a full game. So while we're at home, for me, we need to be getting into teams. So yeah, what did you ask me?
Can't remember anymore.
No, I can't. We went off at a tangent, and there you go.
That's what you do. Let's move away from the on-pitch stuff briefly, Danny, because there's people unhappy on the socials about transfer business again. And I want to sort of pick on this a little bit because it was literally a week ago, literally 7 days, where we were saying that we're really happy with the transfer business. The quality of player we've brought in is better than we've ever brought in a long, long time. X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. We're all praising Matt Taylor. We're praising the recruitment team. We said Tony Stewart's clearly put his hand in his pocket in terms of wages. There might be transfer fees, but these guys are on bigger wages than we have given in the past. Now, because some of them are injured, that means that the investment's not gone in properly and that we're not spending money and this, that, and the other. I know we've lost, but football fans are really dramatic sometimes, I think.
Well, it's the pendulum of football transfers, isn't it? I think it's if they don't hit the ground running straight away, they're suddenly not worth the money. And I sort of get where they're coming from with re-signing older players, because that's always going to be an injury risk. I mean, look what's happened with Peltier. But if you need a crystal ball to be able to see Peltier being out for 2 months, so why sign him? It's like with Morrison. Yeah, he's becoming a bit of almost like a Richard Wood scapegoat in a sense. Slow Shaw Morrison. But at the same time, Morrison is a very good leader and a very good captain. It's just that we might have to treat it a little bit like a Richard Wood situation where he's sort of got that little cushion of speed and youth around him, which when Woody had that, it was really good. I mean, look at the game against Middlesbrough. I mean, against Middlesbrough, he got old manned, but still recovered. So there are still things like that are still useful. And Sean Morrison is extremely useful and an extremely good player at this level. And maybe it has something to do with Christ High or however you say it. And that does seem to have been dragging on, but it's still in the news. It's still there. And Matt Taylor's saying the one that everyone knows about. So it's quite clearly him. And Paul Davis is reporting it in the Advertiser. So it's like that is still ticking over, but people have sort of become accustomed to Rotherham going, oh, we've not signed him in space for a week since hearing the rumour, so it's quite clearly fallen through. We've not offered enough money. But it's like, no, no, this one is still bubbling nicely there. And when it's in the paper,
nice is not the right word, is it?
Well, you know what I mean. It's still there to be sorted out, and Paul Davis is reporting on it, so we know it's got weight if the local press is reporting on it. But Matt Taylor sees that we need more bodies as well. Like the Billy Sharp thing still hasn't gone away, which is really odd because he went past our deadline and we've lowered the offer, but it's still there. So and they've also said about the one, I think it's 2 more players plus Taihi when it eventually gets fully announced and sorted. So make of that what you will, but I think it will be 3 before the end of the window, maybe more if we get the players we want. But Matt Taylor's not daft. He knows that clubs will be able to blow us out the water in certain circumstances. But in terms of the players that we've signed and the attributes that they offer to the team, I'm still really happy. I'm not complaining about it. Would I have liked to have seen a bit more of it? Yeah, but I think that goes for every football club. The important thing is, though, we're not in the same position as Sheffield United, where they've spent like 1% of their Premier League promotion money on players who've never had an appearance. We've signed a player who has more Premier League minutes than the players Sheffield United have signed who have got promoted to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying our recruitment team actually does things.
Paramount says, I stand by.
Chris Teehee. I was just going to say, my understanding regarding Chris Teehee is the fact that if it's going through the Home Office must mean that we have offered him a contract. Otherwise, that the Home Office wouldn't be considering offering him a visa to play here. That would be my understanding. So I would imagine that the paperwork is probably done, and we're just waiting for Suella Braverman's crowd to pull the finger out, basically, at the Home Office. Don't hold your breath on that one. So, I honestly think that is a done deal. Otherwise, we wouldn't be dealing with the Home Office to get a visa for him.
Yeah, I agree. And also, it's worth mentioning, Paul Davis has described the transfer fee as significant for Chris Taihi. So, significant subjective, obviously, but for me, significant for us would be
it's 3-figure bare minimum, isn't it?
6-figure.
100 quid.
I mean,
250 quid.
I mean, 3-figure as in the number of zeros after the number.
Agree,
1,000 quid.
Yeah.
Push it more out.
So, Matt, I feel like you spent money, but we have spent money. We have, like Joy's saying, we have essentially spent that money already because it wouldn't get as far as it had unless the deal was essentially a done deal. Palmer says, I stand by what I said. We don't know what wages are, and you don't. But Matt Taylor's already said multiple times that we're being in front of players that we couldn't have been in before, which is a direct, other than saying the words, we are paying more money, we are. That's essentially what he's saying. You might not like, as people about the fitness and why we're signing people that get injured. Tandy's just, it says, you can't see a crystal ball. Lee Peltier, from my understanding, Walker in his career, I don't think he's particularly injury prone. I think people assume because he's 36, 37 that he's going to get injured all the time. Well, yeah, he's picked up an injury, but he's not an injury prone player like Grant Hall maybe and Sean Morrison. they have got injuries, but there's a reason Sean Morris is on quite a heavy pay-as-you-play contract. And it's going to submit to Grant Hall. I suppose it's just some people to moan about. Mick, do you want to have a moan about it?
Well, I mean, I've read some of the tweets, some of the stuff on Twitter over the last few days. It's clearly just people fishing and trying to wind people up, because some of them are just, some of the comments are just, I mean, they're just beyond stupid, aren't they? So, like these people just fishing. That's all it is. You know, I don't give them airtime. It's just pointless. They have to be fishing because, like I said, some of the comments are so ridiculous, so out there. It's just not true. You know, we talk about the T issue, you know, and the default position for a lot of our supporters, and I'm sure this is the same for other clubs as well. So it's not just Rotherham United, but the default position is that the club are at fault. That's where we start. You know, it's nobody else's fault but the club. I mean, it's nobody knows. Yeah, obviously, yeah, it's Tony's fault, or it's Rob Scott's fault, or it's Matt Taylor's fault, or, you know, it's groundsman's fault, whatever. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely mad. But I don't get it, you know. And then if we come away 4-1 victors on Saturday from Stoke, nobody would be saying any of these things. None of them. But the subjects that they're making comment on would still be there. But we won't be coming out with stupid remarks. It's like, I don't know, you know, Teddy comes out at cop, doesn't it? You know, as soon as we don't get what we want, Teddy's out, and we start stamping his feet. It's just, it is what it is. We've got no control over what happens with this lad's work permit, you know, and it is clear from everything that's been said that the transfer is all but done, assuming that he gets a work permit. What are we supposed to do? You know, go banging on Home Secretary's door saying, "Now then, sign this." You know, I don't know. Just God. When do school holidays finish?
I think we've got to be positive, though, haven't you? I mean, we've still got enough for another 3 loan signings, because we've only got 2 loan signings, and above that, Matt has also alluded to the fact that, you know, we've put in for another couple of permanent or free agents as well, at least, even if one is Billy Sharp. So had that to Chris Teehee, I mean, that's what, 5 to 7 players possibly through the door before the end of this month.
Yeah, we're not done. Remember, everybody, we aren't finished. Transfer window's still 3 weeks away.
I swear Matt Taylor said as well that we've got bids in at other clubs and it's just going through the process. He has said we've put bids in at other places. But again, that's if the club wants to sell them to us, you know. And I don't really think we'll ever have a true insight of how the club conducts its business behind closed doors unless we get a documentary like Sunderland. And that did more harm than good with Sunderland's winter transfer window. The whole Will Grigg saga. Was it like they said they wanted him for $1 million, and then like at the last second, or give him 4 so we can get him. You know, like all right, fair enough. As a Rotherham fan, I would absolutely love to see that, like a fly on the wall sort of thing, where we can sort of just have that little insight, because I think it's human nature to know what you don't know. But it's also also semi-relevant to you, with it being, you know, our football club and things. But at the same time, I'm also okay with letting them get on with it, because it's their job, you know. And we have unearthed some gems through that system, you know. And you look at the signings that we've brought in. All right, granted they're both on loan, but I think Fred and Dexter have done quite well since first coming here. Again, it's that whole spark. They are showing sparks of the reason why we've signed them. And as they progress, it'll become more consistent. I mean, part of me is like, we've played one game, you know, like one game of league competitive football, and it wasn't the best, but it was against Stoke, who have made a lot of good signings and have spent a fair bit of money. Like, how will we come up against when we play, say, I don't know, QPR, for example?
Or Blackburn.
Or Blackburn. Like, a Blackburn at home, how much different will the vibe be when we're at home? But I don't think it'll get to a point where we're like Leeds that one time where we've still got business to do at the end of the deadline date and it's 2 players leaving. I don't think it'll get to that point. I think the signings that are yet to arrive will probably go down right to the last day. But at the same time, I'm very confident in the fact of who we're going to sign. Because remember, we know one of them because, it's like England's worst kept secret, because it's all over the news, like the local news. But at the same time, it's like 2 bids have gone into different clubs. We've no idea who they are. The Billy Sharp thing isn't going away, and Matt Taylor's admitted there is still a deal there if he wants it, but it's a reduced one because he dragged his heels. It's like that's only really 2 bits that we know anything about, but there's also 2 players we have known nothing about, plus players that we might sign in a in a midfielder or defensive capacity that we also know nothing about. So it's a bit, unless you've booked Matt Taylor's house with a microphone, we will never know who they are until we get that little drip like the day before they sign.
Exactly. Chris Taylor wants to know, how long did it take Wigan last season for Kosovo? He was on loan at them. Ask how they did it. He was on loan, and don't ask me the reasons why, Chris, but the loan worked.
It has to work different, surely.
Yeah,
because
it's not
he still goes back.
He's not a permanent resident in the country. If you work here, you're essentially a permanent resident. If you're on loan, you're not permanent resident in the country. So again, I don't know the reasons, but there is.
Who was the lad on Twitter who really dug into it and found out how many? And it's like you need 15, and he's got 8, and that's through domestic minutes at Wigan.
Yeah.
So then that adds more time onto it. Like I know he mentioned about paying £800 for next day processing. Right, fair enough, but there has to be more layers than we know to this, surely.
100%. Yeah. Moving on, because.
Anyone at the Home Office, drop us a DM on Twitter. Let us know if you're dealing with Christ Tahi's case, and let us know why it's taking so long.
Exactly. Referee on Saturday, few people already seen this. Bobby Madley is back. Interesting one. He's had some good moments, he's had some bad moments. Let's wait and see how dear Bobby does. Worth noting that Matt Taylor confirmed today that we've had another apology from the PGMOL. Confirming that Cafu shouldn't have been sent off last week. I mean, Joy, there's nothing they can do now. I suppose that's the point. So an apology is good that they're acknowledging they made a mistake, so hopefully the mistake won't happen again. But it still feels a bit like, you made a mistake. Great. Well done.
Well, with that, one would hope that he's taken to task about it, Busby.
You'd assume so.
Let's hope he's demoted or he doesn't get a gig this weekend. Will that happen? I don't know.
Find out.
He's the one that made the error. He's the one that made the PGMOL look like idiots, which is a regular occurrence, it would seem. Are we going to get favourable views now? We've got Howie in post. I don't know. I wouldn't suggest that. It's just tongue in cheek. But like you say, Cafu missed Morecambe. Is his red card expunged then from his record for this season? Is it expunged from our record as a club this season? Because I don't know if that impacts on fair play, etc. Well,
it has an impact. If he gets sent off again, whatever ban it gets is extra because he's already had a one-game ban, so it could have an impact.
Yeah. So basically, has it been expunged, or is that apology? Got a. Has it been struck off as well with the apology? I don't know. And is Mr. Busby being, like I say, demoted for the weekend?
It does seem so, unless he's got a Premier League job. He's not refereeing in the Football League this week. So it does appear.
I hope he's sat at home really thinking about what he's doing, because he's been a very naughty. I hope he's on naughty step this weekend.
I'm just getting the Premier League stuff up. Not that this is particularly important, but yeah, he is not anywhere that I can see on any of the referees. So it does fourth official at the Brighton Luton game. So he is a fourth official. But I don't know if that counts to demotion or not, to be honest. But anyway, we'll see.
It does feel a little bit meh, though, doesn't it? Like it's one of those situations where it almost feels like an apology isn't quite good enough. I think what makes it worse is that it were a double yellow. If it were a straight red card, then it would have been rescinded, but because it's a double yellow, they can't do anything about it. But, like you mentioned there, Joy, does that then have something put on our fair game sheet where that yellow card gets took off and it takes off a red card. Like, I don't know what the ins and outs are, but all I'll say is that Howard Webber's got a job on his hands.
Yeah. I also don't know if it's 5 yellow cards for a ban. So is he 2
exactly.
yellow cards?
Is that 2 or is that 1 or is it because it's a red? That's it.
It's going to be 2, isn't it? And there's nothing that can be done about that because the rules don't allow it. But I think it's a positive that the PGMOL are coming out and saying, yeah, we made a mistake. You know, that's a step forward. There has to be a step forward in the right direction. You know, it's a little bit more transparency. And, you know, there is no doubt whatsoever that he will have been spoken to and advised, given some advice in terms of what's happened there in order for that apology to have to be made. You know, they're not just going to make an apology and then not speak to him. So hopefully it's a positive and you know, the referees are going to be taken to task when they're jumping in and making rash decisions like that, because that's what that was. It was a rash, ill thought out decision. You know, so it's got to be a positive. It's got to be. And I really, really hope that we're not constantly having to talk about refs this season. You know, I really do. And I know I'm the one that bangs on about it all the time, but we all know what a tough job it is. We all know and none of us would ever do it in a million years. Probably none of us would ever be capable of doing it. I certainly wouldn't. But you know, it's got to be a step in the right direction. And we can go on about it forever, can't we? But you know, we again this season we're back to one rule being made with loads and loads of caveats attached to it. You know, you know, with the new offside rule, that it's just utter nonsense and contradictory. The handball thing changes every week. You know, all these things have an impact on referees' performances. It's got to, because they're having to learn new rules or new interpretations of rules every week, and then being expected to make that decision in an instant. You know, so it's got to be a step in the right direction, getting an apology, I think. But I don't think it's going to make any difference to Cafu and his yellow card count.
It's worth noting, I thought the referee on Tuesday had a pretty good game. Other than not adding as many minutes as I thought he would, I thought the referee had a pretty solid game on Tuesday. The referee I didn't know, so it must be a League 1 or 2 ref. I thought he had a pretty good game, to be fair to him, other than the odd decision, which you're always going to get. Couple of bits.
Thomas Parsons, not heard that name before.
No, I've not heard that before. Right, look at him. Quietly impressed with him. Couple of bits. That's unbeaten in the last 4 home games to Blackburn, and this is a really pointless one that I know Mick will really enjoy. That we haven't had consecutive losses at the start of the season since 2015. So that tells you we shouldn't lose on Saturday if the stats continue as they have the last 8 seasons.
If I remember rightly, in the 81 season when we went up, we had 2 consecutive losses at the beginning of that season, and then went on and did extremely well. And I think we lost in cup as well. But anyway,
so basically, we're going to go on and win the league this season. It'll be all
it's a long time ago, and it means nothing. I like Danny's stat. I like Danny's new feature of what happened the first time these teams met. Because he's got it right. The first 2 games of this season, he's got it bang on right.
Oh, if I get the Blackburn result right, I'm putting lottery on.
So follow Danny for more first lineups and first.
I won't spill the beans too much tonight. You'll have to wait until Saturday on match day to find out. But you'll like the Blackburn one, and if that one rings true, you will very much like the Blackburn one.
Well, Nicholas, come on, didn't we get promoted the last time we lost the first 2 games? No, it was the Great Escape season. The Neil Warnock finally came in and saved us season 15-16. So a great season, but it's not, unfortunately, not a promotion one. And also, it's a landmark appearance on Saturday for Victor Johansson. It will be his 100th Rotherham United appearance in all competitions. So well done to Victor. I don't know if he'll get to the next landmark of 150. You never know. We hope he does. I hope he gets 200. But yeah, 100 appearances, Victor. So well done.
he's come a long way from washing his pants in a hotel sink, hasn't he?
and he just, yeah. So yeah, well done, Victor. Well done, Victor. Let's do some score predictions. Mick, what do you reckon for Saturday?
Oh God, I think we're going to win.
You know what?
I'm positive. I'm going 2-0 Rotherham. Clean sheet for Victor, and 2-0 Rotherham win. Stop all the moaners.
Okay, fair enough. Joy, what do you reckon?
I'm going to be positive and go for a 1-0 win.
I like it. Oh, wrong box. Danny?
I don't want to say mine because it'll give the Blackburn thing away. Right, okay. I'm going to go with what my head says. My head says that hook or by crook will beat Blackburn 1-0.
Okay.
See, Danny, if you'd not said anything there, it wouldn't have given it away, would it? Just by saying it, you gave it away.
Although, did we beat Blackburn 1-0 when we first met them? That's the question.
True. Might be a double bluff.
Mm.
I'm going to go goals, 2-2. Based on the Stoke game, we can't defend. And based on, I think, Blackburn beat Walsall 4-3 in midweek. I don't sound like they can defend either. Yeah, I take an entertaining draw. We just need to step in the right direction. We all just need a bit of positivity to feed on for a week, don't we, I think? And then I think we'd be quite happy with ourselves. Chris Tether says 2-1. Terry Fim says 2-1 to us. Wildinho says 3-1. And Nicholas Skidmore 3-2-1. Brian Edwards 3-1. Palmed with a 0-0. Chris Page says a 2-0 loss. Chris RUFC says 2-0 Blackburn from a Mona.
Don't do yourself down, Chris.
There we go. So, as I mentioned, the scouting report will be up on Friday morning. So please check that out. And I did one for the Rovers chat. So when I get with the Rovers chat and have a look at theirs, that would me. So, anyway, it's there if you want it. We will be back for the podcast as normal, which will be Sunday evening through YouTube and for Monday morning through the audio podcast. We will be doing an instant reaction from the Blackburn game, win, lose or draw. We will be there. So again, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get that and watch us laugh or cry or whatever it might be. There will be some sort of instant emotion from the Blackburn game, which will be there for you to all enjoy. Anything else that you guys want to mention before we go?
No.
Perfect. That means I've covered everything. Great stuff. So thank you, everybody. Please make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes. Wherever you're watching or listening, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify if you can. And we'll see you very soon. Mick, thank you very much. Go and enjoy. Is the sun set in Wales? I assume it has.
Yes, it's pretty dark now. It's getting dark and it's starting to rain as well, which is a bit of a disappointment. I'm coming home tomorrow, so I don't care.
Okay, fair enough. Danny, thank you for being with us. I know you're in Rotherham, so it's the same here, so I don't have to ask you.
Yeah, I'll say it's Mick near Cardiff if it's raining, because they won't like that, will they?
And Joy, thank you very much with us. Is it nice where you are, Joy?
Yeah, just about now. Yeah.
Perfect. And hope it's nice where everybody else is. And we will see you all next time. Thank you very much. And up the Millers.
Cheers.
Up the Millers.
Into Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, the Dauphin, he can hit them, and he does. The Dauphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.